This last example, we suppose a cheetah pouncing on antelope leaps with an initial upward velocity of 19 feet per second. We want to know how long is the cheetah in the air if it lands on the antelope's hind corner 3 feet from the ground. Okay? Here is your formula for height, and I want you to put a star beside this because you will use this other times. Okay? Height always equals negative 16 t squared plus Vt plus h0, okay? And we have to define what some of these things mean. T is your time, and that's usually in seconds. Okay, V is your initial velocity. And then h is your ending height. Or whatever height you're actually looking for. And then h sub 0 is your initial height. So now we have to plug these numbers into our equation to actually see what we get. So I'm going to rewrite this equation the other way around. So I've got negative 16 t squared plus Vt plus h0 equals h. I just flipped both sides. And now I'm going to plug in my actual numbers. We are looking for the time. We want to know how long is the cheetah in the air. So we do not know time. So we'd have negative 16 t squared plus v is my initial velocity. We have an initial upward velocity of 19 feet per second. So plus 19t plus my initial height. Okay, it's pouncing from the ground, so that height of the ground is actually going to be 0. That's going to equal the height I want to end at, and we're ending 3 feet from the ground because we're landing on the antelope. And now we can actually go through and solve this equation. Okay, obviously I want to get this 3 to the other side, okay, because I want to be able to factor. If I want to factor, I need to get everything together, so I'm going to subtract 3 from each side. So now I've got negative 16t squared plus 19t minus 3 equals 0. Remember, when we're factoring, we want one side to be 0 because now I'm going to be able to use that zero product property we've talked about before. So now I need to find how to factor this. Well, if I look, I know b is going to be 19 and a times c equals 48. Okay? And actually, one thing you can do, we have this negative in front of everything. You can multiply each side by negative 1 if that would make it easier for you. So then we'd have positive 16t squared minus 19t plus 3 equals 0. That's probably a little easier to work with. Okay? So we're actually going to say b is negative 19. AC would still be positive 48, but we'll let b be negative 19. This will just make things a little bit easier for us. Okay, so now I have factors of 48, and I want to find some that equal negative 19. Notice I'm trying to get a negative, so I'm going to find 2 negative terms. I'd have negative 1, negative 48, because a negative times a negative would still give me my positive. But the only way to get that negative number when adding is to have 2 negative numbers. Have negative 2, negative 24, negative 3, negative 16, and there actually I can see I just found it because negative 3 plus negative 16 gives me the negative 19 I want. So I'm going to factor this out. I've got 16t squared, and I'm going to write minus 16t minus 3t plus 3 equals 0. And then when I factor out each, the first part and the second part, I would get 16t times the quantity of t minus 1 minus 3 times the quantity of t minus 1 equals 0. And then I can rewrite this as since I've got the same thing in my parentheses, 16t minus 3 times the quantity of t minus 1 equals 0. Now I can take my zero product property and I can take each of these individual pieces and set them equal to 0, which means I can do 16t minus 3 equals 0, and I could also do t minus 1 equals 0. Each piece equals 0. This equation, I would get t equals 1. The other equation, I would add 3 to each side, and we get 16t equals 3, divide each side by 16. You'd get t equals 3/16. Okay? So I know t equals 3/16 and t equals 1. And here's where you have to think a little bit. Okay? Obviously, this second time is going to be when we land on the antelope. But this first time we found is not actually going to be when our jump started. Our jump started when t equaled 0. Okay? This is actually when we passed 3 feet on the way up. And I'll actually show you what this means. You don't have to write this down, just you can pay attention to this example. If you think about our graph, okay, we've got our cheetah right here at 0 seconds. It's going to jump up, and then we're going to land on the antelope right here. Okay, so let's say this is my antelope's height of 3 feet. Obviously, here's my 1 second. This is when I finally landed on the antelope. Right here would be the 3/16 of a second, because on my way up, I passed that 3 feet. And you may be wondering, well, where's that 3 feet coming from? That's the 3 feet we plugged in for h. Okay, if we would have plugged in 0, we would have gotten this point initially, and then we would have gotten some point over here. But we were looking for when the cheetah landed on the antelope, which means we look for when our height is 3. And we have 2 different times when our height is 3, on our way up and then on our way down. And that's all there is for this lesson. A little trickier with factoring when our coefficient isn't 1, but hopefully you're starting to see the pattern. Let me know if you have any questions.